Welcome, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Aaliyah Andres, and here are your news updates to 2:30. Beginning with updates following the war in Gaza, Hamas has freed 2 more hostages on humanitarian grounds, which has been confirmed by the International Committee of the Red Cross. This comes from spokespersons from the UN Secretary General Stephanie Dujarric saying more aid has been moved into Gaza.
Our humanitarian colleagues are telling us that 20 trucks crossed into Gaza from the Rafah border in Egypt today. That's according to the Egyptian Red Crescent.
RCMP in Creston, BC have arrested a top priority fugitive wanted in the U.S. for alleged sex assault, attempted kidnapping, and aggravated assault. Police in Missoula, Montana say 24-year-old Carl Levine was charged in August of 2022 relating to an incident in the city. A nationwide warrant for his arrest was issued when he was deemed non-compliant with arrest. Levine is currently being held by police awaiting extradition to the U.S., and according to Missoula police, Levine's bail has now been set at $2 million. Moving into Canada, 6 people, including 5 children and 1 adult, have sustained non-life-threatening injuries and are being transported to hospital after a collision with a school bus in central Alberta. RCMP say an officer from Didsbury came across the school bus rollover on Highway 2A this morning. The highway north of Calgary is closed with traffic blocked off from that area. No fatalities have resulted from the crash, and while police say road conditions did play an effect, it is still under investigation. According to BC's public school policy, all schools must have learning and working environments that are safe and welcoming to children of all religions. Our reporter Jag Rajlali has more on why promoting diversity is so important in schools.
Students attend school for an average of 8 hours a day, where they meet and interact with peers from different backgrounds. In today's world, even without realizing, the slightest remarks prove to be racially triggering. Amandeep Grewal, a teacher at David Thompson Secondary School and teacher coordinator of the school's Sikh Club, says despite new laws and legislations being written to tackle discrimination, it is still an ongoing issue daily.
There is racism, there are racialized incidents. We need to be informed, we need to be compassionate, but we also need to push people to be better. So you get met with oftentimes very difficult conversations, which are uncomfortable and can often be threatening as well. In terms of people in power, but you sort of walk through them and try and come out of it with some sense that you're going to continue to do this sort of work.
Grewal is in his 9th year running the school's Sikh Club and will continue to stand up to racism for the rest of his career. Jag Rajlali, 1680, The Crow.
Now on to some festivities. With Halloween less than 10 days away, households everywhere are preparing for the lanes of children coming to collect candy. But for kids who have allergies and can't consume regular treats, some are setting up their own preparations so no one feels left behind. Food Allergy Canada is creating an online Halloween treat map where people can pin their homes to signal if they're offering allergy-friendly candy, which lets families know which homes they can visit. The map also lets families know about decorations, haunted houses, and if homes are handing out full-size candy bars.
I promise that you'll never find another like me.
Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert film has reached over $30 million US in its second week at the box office. The film, which is a cinematic recording of Swift's live concert, has snagged an estimated $129 million domestically. Shaw Robbins, the chief media analyst at boxoffice.com, says the film continues to shatter concert movie records as it brings to theaters much-needed foot traffic during a fourth quarter impacted by Hollywood's labor strike. Now for our local weather, it's 11 degrees in Vancouver with mostly cloudy skies. We'll reach 7 degrees as it cools off in the evening. However, if you're heading onto the mountain highways this week, be aware that snow is beginning to fall. Environment Canada has issued a special weather statement reporting a slow-moving Arctic front will debut into the Columbia and Kootenay region. This statement notes about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow could drop down into the Trans-Canada Highway, with this weather system beginning today and continuing into tomorrow across the region. Winter tires and chains are now required for drivers making their way through mountain highways until April 30th of 2024. And those were your news updates to 2:30. Thank you for tuning in to 1680 The Crow. I'm Aaliyah Andres.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
bit too fast because my heart is going a bit too fast, so I'm going to slow it down a bit.
We're like middlemen straight from the creator making these moves.
We're all kind of misfits.
Something to look forward to, you know? I feel like it's important. Like usually I'll just be like, grab my arm, and then you just kind of like pull them like a T-bar, you know?
I think skateboarding is a piece of medicine in itself.
We're just doing the work in hopes that eventually we'll have chapters of other nations skate youth in other parts of Turtle Island.
It's nations, skate yours.
Nation Skate Youth started in my living room, organically. I was asked to go to Fort St. John to talk about mental health and bring skateboarding. I didn't know who to bring, and the first person I thought of was Joe Buffalo. Big inspiration in my life.
Joe came up with the name. It didn't really click at first, but after a while we made the logo and everything, and it all just came together so fast.
I think one of my main goals when I started Nations was to get more skate parks on reserves. We realized that this would be a bigger thing, to not just go to one community. We wanted to go to all the communities.
We all wanted to, create something that was like a youth program to help empower like youths through skateboarding. It's a way of getting yourself out of your own shell. And I feel like in a lot of First Nations communities, there's not a lot to do in those communities. It's very small, and sometimes you feel like you're trapped. A lot of them are really nervous when we first meet them. And I feel like when we always start with a talking circle. So it's like we tell our stories, and we kind of we try to make them feel comfortable, and tell them why we're there, and what we're gonna do in the day.
Everyone here is a new beginner or has skated before, and we're here to help each other. If you fall down, take a breath, get back up.
Everything's that way in the beginning, you know what I mean? You're gonna feel out of place when you're beginning, you know what I mean? That's normal. But once you meet your crowd, and that's half the battle with us growing up, is trying to find your people so that they grow with them from a young age as family members, and then they grow as skateboarders.
Gives you like a sense of identity too, you know? Like every time I went to school, I'd always be like, I can't wait to go skate after, having that, something to look forward to, you know? I feel like it's important when you're a kid.
Especially having a brother. It's easier to influence each other to do things, and you progress faster because of that. And it's like always having a friend there, and always having that safety net in a sense.
Skating is something that we grew up doing together. I feel like that kept us close, Skateboarding is part of my identity, and my family is part of my identity.
just let skateboarding do its thing. It's that rich, you know? All we do is connect and instill that, plant that seed. It's something I never had growing up, you know?
Seeing Joe skateboard at his level and hearing that he went to the residential school and the way that kids, like, you know, oh, my dad went to residential school. Oh, my brother did. Oh, my mom did. You know, they start to relate. And I think that, you know, it's been a healing journey. Skateboarding, like I said, will take you out of all the negative, all the darkness that you feel. And once you get on a skateboard, that's an opportunity for you just to focus on something and be present.
Like even in my community, there's suicides like every year. And it's really sad because you lose knowledge keepers, you lose, you know, momentum. Like you lose just youth that have a lot of potential. And I remember Rosie, that was the biggest reason why she wanted to start Nations.
You know, to talk about alcohol, drugs, and suicide, because it's happening and they're so young and they see it and they're experiencing it. And just to let them know, like, that they're valued.
It kind of stops that intergenerational trauma because it's a lot of self-doubt, and skateboarding kind of gives you that, you know, that recognition that like it's not, yeah, it just gives you that freedom to express yourself.
Hell yeah.
So today I was skateboarding on the skate park and I was just learning. I was a little nervous at first, but then I got the hang of it. He made me feel happy. Okay, can we do that again?
Yeah, let's do it again. Okay, I'll go on this side of you.
Because he is a good skateboarder and he taught me how to do some tricks. Apple turnover and like tic-tac.
When you have someone believing in you and cheering you on, like that whole feeling, and that's how I try to do with Nations, you know, like you got it, you're there, and the just like the inspiring and like the empowerment you get from that, it's a good feeling. We want the youth to be their best selves. We want them to know that everything isn't going to be easy. But once they start skateboarding and you can see that they're pushing on their own and they're able to do tricks right away, and I think that's something that is so positive, and you know, it's gonna create leadership and create community where there hasn't been. What I've seen at Nations that makes me proud, when I ask a youth how to count in their language or say hello or thank you in their language, and they can tell me.
So kikiu means eagle, musquasses means bear, kukam means auntie, grandma, musha means grandpa, and tuk-tuk means duck.
What's your favorite word in Cree?
Eagle because I'm an eagle.
In so many ways I was trying to find myself in skateboarding, like the community skateboarding has, which has been really fulfilling in a lot of ways. But I think connecting to my culture, you really do feel that connection with your ancestors when you do that stuff. I feel like with Nations we're able to use skateboarding as like a tool to empower youth and to like give them, I know Rosie always said it, but like, you know, be proud of who you are and be proud of where you come from. And I feel like it rings so true in so many of the communities that we go to.
To be proud of who you are, be proud of where you come from, not to be ashamed. I feel like when you start telling them that at a young age, it's going to change the way they look at themselves, the way they carry on their culture and their traditions, the way that they will have that close relationship with their grandparents, and to learn. I know for me, I've heard stories that broke me, that completely broke me. And it made me mad, it made me angry, it made me sad, it made me pissed right off at the government. But when you're around youth, you know, you want to show them the hope. You definitely want to show them that there's hope out there.
Because it's needed. Someone's got to be here for the youth. Someone's got to be that person, that older brother, older sister needed, that kind of needed, you know? There's nothing like it. So that's why we figured give back. I'm here to teach you. You're not going to fall. I'm going to hold you, okay? Give me your hands. We're just getting started, man.
Having self-determination to be better and to create that community, I think, is something that we want to pass down to the youth as well. Show them what's possible.
Chana, hey hey look Chana, hey hey CGLA, hey hey
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to 1680 The Crow. I'm Liam Higgs, and I will be bringing you your 3 o'clock news update. Let's get right into it with an update on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Foreign Affairs Minister Melina Joly says there are concerns about the conflict between Israel and Hamas militants in Gaza expanding. She says Canada believes the long-term peace in the region requires renewed talks toward a two-state solution, and that Canada would like to see a de-escalation in the conflict.
I worked with many of my counterparts to address the issue of de-escalation and bring more peace and stability. I think it is important that together we work on a political dialogue to make sure that there is a horizon for peace and stability in the mid and longer term.
Calls for a ceasefire have been adding up for over the last week, particularly since a deadly strike at a hospital in Gaza City on October 17th. Defense Minister Bill Blair this weekend said that Canadian military intelligence has concluded that the rocket was fired from within Gaza, not from Israel. In more international news, an off-duty Alaskan Airlines pilot is facing 83 counts of attempted murder after he allegedly tried to shut down the engines of the plane he was flying on. Oregon police say the 44-year-old man was jet-bound for San Francisco on Saturday when the incident happened. Alaska Airlines says the crew reported a credible security threat. Here's the sound of one of those pilots requesting police presence and saying the suspect has been subdued.
Just give you a heads up. We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit, and he doesn't sound like he's causing any issue in the back right now. I think he's subdued. Other than that, we want law enforcement as soon as we get on the ground and park.
Let's check in with New York. 2 hospitals in New York have resumed admitting ER patients after a cyber attack forced them to go offline. Reporter Julie Walker from the Associated Press explains.
Ambulances had been diverted from Health Alliance Hospital in Kingston and the affiliated Margaretville Hospital in Margaretville last week due to a cyber attack. Mountainside Residential Care Center, a skilled nursing facility, was also hit, according to officials. Hospital officials say the ambulance diversion ended Saturday night and the facilities resumed admitting patients. The Westchester Medical Center Health Network, which runs the 3 facilities, said in a statement that the network's IT experts shut down the computer systems at the facilities Friday night and then started them back up. Julie Walker, New York.
Let's go to Canada now. Global Affairs Canada says a social media campaign that is likely connected to the People's Republic of China is targeting dozens of MPs with spam, including the Prime Minister. National Defense Minister Bill Blair says it's currently being investigated, but there's no personal danger to any of the MPs.
We know that there has been some targeting of Canadian government and government officials. We're still determining what the full extent of that is.
Global Affairs Canada says a bot network began a campaign known as Spamouflage to spread propaganda and disinformation messages across MPs' Facebooks and Twitter, or formerly known as X. The attack is believed to have started in August. Staying with Canada now, BC Premier David Eby spoke this morning assuring new arrivals to BC that they can apply their training abilities as soon as possible. He also spoke more in depth about workers in the construction sector and what Canada is doing to allow them to work in their preferred profession.
There's a couple pieces to the shortage of skilled workers that we have in different categories. One is in terms of the province's authority around asking Immigration Canada to grant approval for people to come to British Columbia, we have something called the Provincial Nominee Program. It's a program where we get to set out particular categories where workers are particularly needed, and then Immigration Canada directs and allows us to fill those numbers. We've been pushing hard with the federal government to increase the number of people where the province has some control over particular categories of workers that are in high demand areas, including construction. So we've been doing that work. The other piece is once people get here, we've particularly targeted them because of their knowledge and their skills in a certain area, and then they get here and they're not actually able to work. And we're hopeful that we'll be able to increase our provincial nominee total, the number of people in these in-demand professions, but we can't have it that when they get here, they're not able to work in that profession. And that's what today's announcement is all about, making sure that we're closing the gap. We've recruited you, we want you to come here, but we actually want you to be able to use the skills that we've recruited you for once you get here. I'm going to pass it over to Minister Mercier, and I just want to note.
In other Canadian news, the Crown has dropped a bail violation charge against the organizer of the Freedom Convoy, Tamara Leach, in order to free up court time for her main criminal trial, which is running longer than expected. That trial slowed down because Leach and her co-accused demanded information about a software update that wiped the data off of the phones of at least 2 police officers after the protest. Zooming in now, BCIT has recently announced they are building a high school trades program after months of negotiation. Our reporter Jocelyn Chappelle has more.
An over $5.5 million donation from the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation will allow programs to take place at 4 high schools in 4 different school districts. The schools were selected after careful consideration of marginalized communities and where the program would benefit those that may otherwise not have access to similar opportunities. The program will set students up for an apprenticeship after completion and is completely free for students to take. Some areas of training include piping, electrical, marine fitting, and metal fabrication. It is expected to impact around 400 students over 7 years. Jocelyn Chappelle, 1680 The Crow.
In other local news now, an update now on Hazel Trembath Elementary. This morning, another school building gave the new students treats and balloons to try and keep their spirits high. Also, a bus transport has been set up to take all 215 Hazel Trembath students to their new school. Police are still asking for anyone who may have information or video surveillance of the area to contact their investigators. In other SD43 news, education assistant Christine McDonald, or Ava James to some, has filed a grievance against her school district after she was fired from her job over her OnlyFans account. The 35-year-old, who is a single mother, says she started her OnlyFans account to supplement her income as an education assistant. McDonald has filed the grievance for what she feels is wrongful termination. Let's get into some sports. A Vancouver Canucks fan who has won $100,000 due to Brock Besser lighting the lamp 4 times in the team's home opener on October 11th. She won this money because of Save On Foods giveaway. The store offers $1 million for one Vancouver player scoring 5 goals and $100,000 for 4 goals. This is the first time a Canucks player has scored 4 or 5 goals since the contest has started. In other hockey news, the NHL has released its 3 stars of the week. The players are Detroit right winger Alex DeBrincat, Colorado goaltender Alex Georgiev, and Florida center Sam Reinhart. DeBrincat had his 5th career hat trick this weekend, leading the Red Wings to a 4-0 week. Georgiev went 3-0 this past week with his .940 save percentage and a shutout to help keep the Avalanche's perfect season intact. Reinhart had 5 goals and an assist over the span of this week as well. On to football now. The Rough Riders will not be renewing head coach Dickinson's contract after a 6-12 season. The CFL team says he will not have his contract renewed. The Rough Riders missed the playoffs with the 6-12 record. The club also says that the general manager, Jeremy O'Day, has agreed to a new contract. Rod Peterson from The Rod Peterson Show shares his opinion.
A surprise, man, with Dickey. They end the last 2 seasons on twin 7-game losing streaks and missed the playoffs. Even he would tell you he didn't deserve to come back, lost the room. As far as O'Day goes, that's a shocker. Again, missed the playoffs 2 straight years and you get rewarded with a new deal.
In the soccer world, Captain Christine Sinclair to wrap up Canada career with 2 December games in BC. Canada captain Christine Sinclair will wrap up her international career in December with 2 games in her own backyard. Sinclair will face 11th-ranked Australia on December 1st and at Starlight Stadium in Langford, BC, and December 5th at Vancouver's BC Place. Sinclair announced plans last week to retire from international football at the end of the year. Tickets for both matches are available via pre-sale October 25th, with tickets going on sale to the public on October 30th. To baseball now, the Rangers are playing the Astros tonight at 5. That series is currently tied 3-3. Max Scherzer is set to pitch another Game 7 in Houston, with visiting teams undefeated in the current series. Game 6 between the Diamondbacks and the Phillies is currently in the second inning, with both teams being tied at 1 when this was wrote. The Phillies are currently up 3-2 in that 7-game series. Moving on to weather now, some places in BC are expected to see the first snowfall of the season today. Environment and Climate Change Canada says the estimated snowfall ranges between 10 to 15 centimeters, which means snow tires are now required for drivers on mountain highways. Anyone on the road during the snowfall is advised to be careful of possible dangerous road conditions and low visibility. However, in Vancouver right now, it's mostly a cloudy week with some chances of rain and a little bit of sun to round off our week, with highs being 11 degrees. Thanks for joining me. I'm Liam Higgs, and that was your 3 o'clock news update on 1680 The Crow. Don't go too far, as we will be right back with your 3:30 news update.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hello and welcome to For the Record on 1680 The Crow. I'm Jagraz Lawley. In today's world, where it's more important than ever for people to come together and understand each other, schools have quite the role. They help shape how students see the world, what they believe in, and how they connect with a world that's filled with all kinds of people. Religion is about different beliefs and traditions, and it's important for kids to learn about them. But why is it so important for schools to make room for these differences? To better understand this, I'm now joined by Amandeep Grewal, a teacher at David Thompson Secondary School and coordinator of the school's Sikh Club. Just want to start off by asking you, how does your background affect the way you teach and interact with students?
Yeah, definitely. I think my cultural background and my ethnicity really inform my teaching practice and the way I interact. I think, oftentimes, especially with the sort of racism piece, minorities are a little bit guarded around kids, and that definitely plays into sometimes the way I interact, which is, I'm more cautious or weary of stepping into certain zones with certain types of kids. But other than that, my background when it comes to my upbringing and, being born and raised in Canada and having gone through teacher ed, and especially my first teaching gig was with Britannia, where it was very student-centered, really informed me. I became very much a student-centered teacher, relaxed. Growing up, we had to make light of many things that were, heavy to carry. So I think I'm very lighthearted that way, and it definitely plays out in the classroom where, kids laugh, and I'm more sensitive to those sort of learning situations that require kids to be more relaxed in the classroom. The atmosphere has to be safe. It definitely plays a huge part in who I am and the way I teach.
You are the coordinator of David Thompson Sikh Club. What has the Sikh Club done to make the school more diverse and inclusive?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that we're visible. So I ran Sikh Club starting in 2014, run it through for up until now, even present day. And so one of the goals, especially when it comes to my own personal goal for Sikh Club and my approach towards creating inclusive and diverse spaces, is to sort of occupy the space. And by occupying the space, we have kids wear hoodies and purchase Sikh Club custom-made hoodies so that they're visible in the school. There's a sense that, okay, there is this community, and there's a linking of kids in the community. There's a linking to me. Letting the overall school community know that there is this group of kids, Sikh Club, Sikh kids who are together, and you can see them now. And we put on many events that are, in line with Sikhism, in line with the cultural piece around Sikhism, giving out over 2,000 samosas last year. Harjit Sajjan, the Honorable Minister, came by. He matched our Vaisakhi Day event where we gave out over 1,000 samosas. He said, I'm going to match it. I'm going to, support Sikh Club, the Sikh students. He also went to David Thompson, so he said, I'm going to bring 1,000 bags of chips. He sat with us. I gave him a Sikh Club hoodie. He was one of us. So showing that, the different levels where we begin first with recognition of who the Sikh kids are, so they're visible and visible, transition that visibility into a way that, they're visible in a way that's productive, or in the eyes of others, a part of a community that can give back, and a part of a community that deserves also your give back, that, you should value them, create opportunities for them, and create that equity piece around that. And then, showing that, we're very much a part of the greater Canadian community. Sajjan's with us, and giving back in that way, and the different levels that Sikhs have contributed within the minor community here in Southeast Van, and also in the major Canadian community of Canada at large.
What problems have you faced while trying to make the school more diverse, and how did you fix them?
Yeah, so being also the anti-racism school lead and working for the BCTF as an anti-racism facilitator, and being a part of the anti-racism action group with the BCTF, I definitely have a huge background in anti-racism. I have a master's thesis in anti-racism, where I wrote about racism within a school board, let's say. And so there's a huge background there. Knowing that, and having been read, and having many scholars who are my friends around the anti-racism piece, I can say with accuracy that there was a lot of pushback, there was a lot of microaggressions. There's definitely a palpable and overt racism that we face, probably on a daily basis when it comes to running certain clubs, especially Sikh Club, and I also sponsor Muslim Club. So there is pushback in the sense that the educational structure within I work is predominantly white, and with that comes the power of decision making around that. So we can often be met with a less knowledgeable people in power who might be intimidated or triggered around certain cultural celebrations like maybe Baisakhi or Eid celebration. And oftentimes that translates and enters in a way in my life as a professional conversations around, whether it's appropriate to have these events or not, or and ultimately whether I think that I'm allowed to occupy space within my school and in the larger sort of educational school community around, being Sikh, supporting Eid events, or, pushing boundaries to say, hey, there is racism, there are racialized incidents, we need to be informed, we need to be compassionate, but we also need to push people to be better. So you get met with oftentimes very difficult conversations, which are uncomfortable and can often be threatening as well in terms of people in power. But you sort of walk through them and try and come out of it with some sense that you're going to continue to do this sort of work.
What advice can you give to teachers in schools who want to be more diverse and inclusive?
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to do, like I did, was you need to be well-read, you need to be well-versed, you need to be well-educated, you need to get into circles like I did with the BCTF, where you're trained in anti-racism, you're trained in equity and diversity and what those things mean, because it's a very huge knowledge base there that you need to tap into. And then, take your own personality around that and focus it in on your school, but you're going to have to act on things that you think about, and the action piece is the key. So if you are weary about starting a Sikh club at your school, then you need more work in terms of whether it's gaining support and influence around people who can help you make that happen. And then the follow-through is also very important. It has to be done in a way that's tactful and takes into account where your school is at when it comes to diversity and equity piece, and where you think your leadership will back you when it comes to that as well. So it's that matching up and noticing mismatches and educating yourself. And what I always tell the kids is you have to build capacity in yourself, and the capacity has to help you manifest that vision and that ultimate moral of being equitable and diverse in your school community.
How can parents and the community help schools with promoting diversity?
I think parents, especially in the community around any given school, I know oftentimes they're a little bit afraid to speak out, but they don't need to speak out more. It's just a matter of lending support, perhaps. So if we do have a Sikh club, or you have a diversity club in your school, maybe parents call in and tell the principal, this is working great. We really appreciate your support around this thing, and acknowledging the piece that it can be difficult to help move the needle when it comes to diversity and equity, but also advocating and supporting the kids. And I think the community the school is in the community. It has to be a reflection of the community and feed the community with future members that are productive. So that same community has to then guide and mentor from the outside, and yet enter those institutions and say, hey, we're with you, like Sajjan did with our school at the Vaisakhi Day event. As a prime example, studied at DT, went on to do many great things around in his community, police officer, then went to federal politics, and then came back to DT to say, hey, I'm here with Sikh Club. He even said it himself, they never had that back when he went to DT, and he would have loved to have seen that. So we can only imagine what the community can do once we have something like this diversity and equity playing out in schools, where they also support it and push for it and give it some more momentum. How far we can take our citizens and future citizens who are minorities, and even non-minorities, how they can be inspired to be better leaders for a country that is very diverse.
Mr. Grewal, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jagraj. It was a pleasure.
That's all for today. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on For the Record right here on 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Welcome, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Aaliyah Andres, and here are your news updates to 3:30. The war in the Middle East has led to some Palestinians being stranded in the West Bank, which is just north of Jerusalem. ABC reporter Inez de la Cutera has more on how the now displaced people became stuck.
They're in a very particular situation. These are people from Gaza. Their families are in Gaza, but they happened to be in Israel when the war broke out. So some people were workers. These are Gazans with Israeli work permits. Some people were getting medical treatment. So we spoke to one woman who was at an Israeli hospital near Tel Aviv getting cancer treatment. And so when the war broke out, they had no way of returning home. So a lot of them were afraid about what would happen to them should they stay in Israel, and they felt safer heading over to the West Bank, being surrounded by Palestinians.
Moving over more locally, BC Premier David Eby spoke this morning on how newcomers to Canada can use their skills in the job field right away. Our reporter Filip Kovacevic explains more on what this means moving forward.
With Premier David Eby's announcement of the International Credentials Recognition Act, workers who have earned their qualifications in other countries should have an easier time getting jobs in their field. Premier Eby has discussed asking Immigration Canada to grant people approval to come to BC and the provincial nominee program, which categorizes where workers are needed.
That's what today's announcement is all about, making sure that we're closing the gap. We've recruited you. We want you to come here, but we actually want you to be able to use the skills that we recruited you for once you get here.
Said British Columbia Premier David Eby. More information on the bill's status to come at the BC Legislature this week. Filip Kovacevic, 1680 The Crow.
Vancouver has set another record-setting cruise ship season, which ends this week. The Port Authority says the last vessel for the 2023 season is set to depart from the Canada Place Cruise Terminal on Thursday, marking a robust season for the cruise industry. The Port of Vancouver has seen more than 333 cruise ships between April and October of this year, marking another record for Canada Place. Once the ship has departed, the Port of Vancouver expects to have welcomed about 1.25 million passengers this year, which is an approximate 54% increase compared to the 2022 season. BCIT has recently announced they are building a high school trades program to increase opportunities for young people. Our very own reporter Jocelyn Chappelle explains how this program was made possible after months of negotiations and an over $5.5 million donation.
An over $5.5 million donation from the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation will allow programs to take place at 4 high schools in 4 different school districts. The schools were selected after careful consideration of marginalized communities and where the program would benefit those that may otherwise not have access to similar opportunities. The program will set students up for an apprenticeship after completion and is completely free for students to take. Some areas of training include piping, electrical, marine fitting, and metal fabrication. It is expected to impact around 400 students over 7 years. Jocelyn Chappelle, 1680 The Crow.
Quebec's government announced the appointment of a special access coordinator whose mission will be to coordinate and execute better access to healthcare services. Quebec's Health Minister Christian Dubé says Quebec's healthcare system is one of the busiest in the country. With more than 333,000 employees, he says it requires vast coordination to ensure proper healthcare is delivered. Michael Delamere is the former president and CEO of the Integrated University Health and Social Services Center of Quebec City's capital region. He is coming out of retirement to take the role. Delamare has several goals to ensure services are offered to patients throughout their healthcare journeys, including obtaining consultations with specialists in a timely manner and getting the help they need once they are discharged from the hospital. And now on to our weather. We are sitting at 11 degrees with mostly cloudy skies and the humidity around 60%. Tomorrow we will be seeing some showers with an estimated high of 8 degrees and a progression of sunshine into the weekend. But be on the lookout for snow if you're heading onto one of the mountain highways this week. Winter tires and chains are now required for drivers making their way through mountain highways until April 30th of 2024. Environment Canada has issued a special weather statement reporting about slow-moving Arctic front coming over the Kootenay and other eastern regions. The statement notes 5 to 10 centimeters of snow could drop. That was Up Taste at 3:30. I'm Leah Andrews. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.